welcome to the Brass Monkeys. I'm Rich.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Steve.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how the three of us got into the wonderful world of brass banding. So, Steve, over to you first.
So I started after you guys. It was all a bit contrived, really, from Courtaulds. The great man Tommy Owens, who we'll all mention several times, he used to work in Courtaulds, same as my dad. And then there was another guy who lived down the road from me called Ozzy. And they were having their snap in their lunch together. And I think it was all a setup to get me dad there. And they were talking about the band and stuff. And then it was, well, you've got a lad, haven't you? And he's about 10, isn't he? Or 11? Yeah. So the next thing, I'm jettisoned into the town hall in Flint to quite a shock to the system, really, because you fellas were there blowing your heads off. I think it was who could play the loudest was or make the most noise. I wouldn't say playing. So that was my introduction to brass banding.
So how did your dad broach the subject with you, Steve?
I think I was just dragged there. There was no negotiations in them days.
Right, kicking and screaming.
We're going, yeah.
Did you have any idea of banding then at the time?
Nothing at all, no.
Oh, okay.
Not an inkling of it. So, as I say, I was sort of dragged there, really. But yeah, never looked back. So yeah, it was, well, as I say, I started after you guys. A few of the other names that will probably come up started later than us, who we'll probably discuss later on or the next time. All I remember is going in, you guys were blowing your heads off, Tommy was there. It was in the days when it was a blackboard, big old blackboard with a few notes on.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then after a few goes of that, I started off on baritone for a week.
Oh, did you? Because I couldn't remember how you got onto bass.
Yeah. All I remember is that he was on his own for a long time. We were lucky, really. There were more cornet players and there was another trombone player, but poor Steve was on his own for a heck of a long time.
Yeah, and it was one of those where it was a baritone, and then it was the old, oh, and you're a big lad, aren't you? And your dad was in the Guards, wasn't he? So he'd be good at cleaning instruments, wouldn't he? So then it was up, I don't know if you remember the cellar, but it wasn't actually underground. Remember that one upstairs?
Yeah. It was like
It was like a false floor.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it?
And there was a load of old instruments stored in there. So
I bet they're still there, Steve.
probably, yeah, probably a few players as well. But yeah, we went up there and we dragged. No, there was no cases in them days either for the basses. It was just in like a Hessian sack. So we pulled out this baby bass, and I'm sure one of the photos on our Flint Band Facebook page. There's a photo of a gentleman with that bass from like 1920 sort of thing. Right. So it was an old high-pitch instrument which had been lowered. Right. Had lovely engraving on it. You know, one of these ones where you look at them, you know, the workmanship was fantastic in them days. So ended up with one of those, black as it can be, you know. It wasn't silver, it was black. So took that home, cleaned it up.
Well, your dad cleaned it up.
Yeah, well, yeah, between us. I left it with him because he was on shift. So, yeah, I went to school and he cleaned my bass for me. Top job. Went back the next week then, as I say, 1 week on baritone, lucky escape on E-flat. And then every sort of few months after that, I'd get another one, different bass. This one's a better one. Old Tommy used to say, this one's a better one than the other one you've had. So take that one home and get it cleaned up and then bring it back.
I seem to remember at some stage, didn't you have an Imperial bass?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they were frosted ones.
Yeah,
so
but
they were.
Yeah, but that was like what the senior band had.
Yeah.
This was the older ones.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to start with, it was like a 3/4 size one. You know, a little baby bass.
Yeah.
And then we had full size, but they were the old ones. So they were sort of 1920, 1930s sort of old ones. So I ended up on, I think, 4 of them over the years. And then I suppose really after that, we sort of evolved from, you know, we started on the blackboard, didn't we? And then we evolved to the sort of hymn books, and Tommy's favourite was the old Rugged Cross, which we had as a separate sheet. I remember that.
It's handwritten, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember there was some sort of white book as well that had a couple of marches at the back, Belfigo, and some other, tunes.
Yeah.
And it was basically for junior band,
Yeah.
Didn't we play totes and tunes? Didn't we have those
Tunes and
books?
toast.
Tunes and
Yeah.
totes
I
and
always
all
call
that.
it. I always call it that way as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. We had a set of them as well. But I just remember those as when we started out as from scratch really. And I suppose then with about that time, I think I was still in primary school when I started. But I remember once we went to the high school, obviously within 2 years we had a fantastic, not just our sort of junior band with Flint. We had a magnificent band then in the school. I think Mr. Stone did well out of it, didn't he? As a head of music, he
did, didn't he?
He did well out of it. And we had Bill Hind as the Perry.
Yeah.
Never used to get on really with having lessons because you were getting dragged out of another lesson, weren't you? So we used to usually get barracked by the geography teacher. I seem to remember was always
the maths teacher never used to want to let me go because I was quite poor at maths.
Was that Mr. Smith?
It was Mr. Turvey.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes. Well, you wouldn't want to cross Mr. Smith.
No.
No.
No, I did, but that's another story.
That's another
time.
story. That's one for another time. So, as I say, we had a cracking junior band, and I think the clever thing that Tommy did as well is we had one of everything. We had a sop, we had a flugel, we had a bass trombone, which normally you just end up with a pile of cornets and whatever else is left. But he covered all the corners, didn't he?
He was very good, wasn't he?
Early days, thinking of that is really forward thinking in terms of
future of the band.
Future, yeah. All the things that you struggle with, he covered, which was, I thought was, very, as I say, forward thinking really for the time, and then obviously over time we sort of migrated to the senior band as gaps came. I remember the first time sitting in with the senior band. It wasn't to play. Obviously, I wasn't good enough for that yet. And I sat next to Vic Bagshaw. So Vic was playing flugel then, and what he did was he sat me down next to him, and we followed the music. So every now and then he'd just have a look over, and if I give a nod, it was all right, and if not, we'd be pointing at the music to say where he'd sort of say where he was, and I'd be pointing somewhere completely different, thinking, well, we're only by there. So that's how I started, sort of hanging around after the junior band to the senior band. Got used to reading the music, and obviously the music's a lot faster, a lot harder at that. And when you're young, you're sort of 11 or 12 or something, it's a massive step up, isn't it? You go from, really simple stuff to quite a lot harder, and obviously reading the flugel part from the bass part, we only play once every 3 sort of lampposts, don't we? A quick blob and that's it. So it was quite enlightening that really, and a good way to start. And then, as I say, over time, we all sort of migrated to the senior band as spaces became available, really. There was a good bass section when I went there because there was Darryl, there was Mr. Conway's daughter, Janice, and her husband, Mark.
Yeah. I remember. I do vaguely remember them. Yeah.
So, I was just trying to think of people as we went to the senior band. There was likes of, obviously, Barry Evans, It was, I suppose, our hero in that way, the man on the end, wasn't he?
He was principal cornet, wasn't he? So.
There was him and Chris next to him. We had Dave Hughes on horn. We had Dave Thomas on youth, and his wife Denise on trombone. And we used to have Darryl on bass, and there was a few others as well who were there. Joe Tatler. There was a gang of really good players at that time. And then we sort of integrated into that, didn't we? And
we did, and then onwards and forwards, I suppose, wasn't it?
And I suppose just thinking of conductors we had Mr. Conway.
Yeah, I remember.
Who came from Brill, didn't he?
Yeah.
He always used to ask me, how long do you practice every day?
Yeah.
And the answer was always half an hour.
Yeah.
He never.
I think he asked it all.
Yeah, I think used to be his one question to the kids was, hello, boy. How long do you practice for? Yes, half an hour, sir. Yes. And then we had Mr. Evans from D-side, didn't we? Do you remember him?
I don't remember him.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. I think he used to take the key band.
Yeah.
And then we had Gareth Thomas, didn't we?
Yeah,
We did for many years. Good old Gareth. And then, I was just trying to think of a contesting as well. I remember the first time, personally, I went to the North Wales Rally, which was in Kelston College then. We didn't actually play because, we weren't quite good enough at the time. So we all went in our uniforms and sat at the front. And the only thing we forgot to do was stand up for the national anthem. But that's another story.
Fun times, wasn't
Yes, fun times a long time ago. And I suppose after that, myself, it would have been about 1985. I think I went to Point of Ayre for a short time. But, magnificent time then. I probably wasn't ready for it then and, wasn't a good enough player. But I managed a short time there and, we did, amazing things like, just playing in the Royal Albert Hall, Mine Workers in Blackpool, went to Yeovil for the entertainments contest. It was like, going to playing in Free Trade Hall, Whit Friday for the first time. Did songs of praise, conductors with people like Richard Evans, Trevor Walmsley, Mr. Scott, Ray Farr, people like, the top people, and you don't realise how good they were. And thinking around that 1985, always, I think back to, that was the year that Grimethorpe did the Granada Band of the Year one with Stephen Sykes sitting in the middle of the band with no conductor.
Yeah.
And it was Elgar Howarth had arranged it all. And sadly, he's only just passed away a few days ago.
Oh, right, okay.
So Mr. Howarth passed away not long ago. But them days, we used to have things like, we'd have, say, Granada Band of the Year. You had BBC Best of Brass. And you think then you had the likes of Howard Snell with Desford and Vodens, all the music they were, producing then, and a lot of that stuff we're still playing now. When you look at our band repertoire, a lot of it, the better stuff, a lot of it is arrangements.
Yeah.
So I had a short time with Point of Ayre, and then 25 plus years with Northup.
Wow, was it that long?
Yeah. Off and on. I think I had 2 stints. I had a little gap. Sort of did all the roles going, and even got the worst job in the world of band manager for a bit. Which
Poison jealous.
yes, poison jealous. And then after that, I went to play. I sort of retired from Northup. Well, I got the elbow, should we say? Shepherd's Crook. And I went to Holywell after that. And the laughable story about that was I'd retired for a week. I'd managed a week's retirement.
Yeah, you never retired as a bandman, do you?
No, I had a hole in my roof.
And now you're doing more than ever.
Yeah. So I had a hole in my roof.
I remember this story.
Yes, and who come to fix it was Mark Davis.
Yeah, indeed.
And his dad. So Mark and Dave were on the roof. I was holding the ladder. It's blowing a gale, horizontal rain. And instead of them fixing me roof, they were poking heads over the flat roof saying, just yourself and a couple of cornets and we'll be sorted. So in the end, I had to say I'd signed for them. So that was a short-lived retirement of a week.
Well, did they give a discount on fixing the roof, though?
No. No chance. The Davises, no chance at all. So that was really a quite quick and potted history of Steve Edwards' brass band life.
You did a lot there, though, didn't you, Steve? Really?
Yeah.
So how about you then, Doug?
Well, I'll start off by saying that the family had not long moved up from Kent. We moved up to Flint, and my dad found out that they were thinking about forming a choir in the town. Obviously, that went on to become the Flint Male Voice Choir, and Dad was a founder member. So it was probably natural that he wanted me to be involved with music. So he basically went for a couple of pints to the Welsh Harp pub in Flint. And someone in the pub pointed out a Mr. Tommy Owens. My dad got chatting to him, and he agreed to teach a new beginners group of kids.
Because I think at the time, all his students he was teaching had gone up to a senior band or disappeared, gone to uni or something.
Yeah, they'd all got a bit older, hadn't they? And moved on, you know, job-wise, or they were still in the senior band. And obviously, that's where we would end up eventually, playing for the Flint Town Silver Prize Band. So, anyway, my dad took us down to the town hall, and I met Mr. Owens down in the bottom of the town hall. My mum had forced me to wear a purple suit that I had worn recently for a family wedding. Mr. Owens looked at me lips and he said, "Only one instrument for them," and he gave me a trombone.
Sorry, Doug, just need to go back on this purple suit thing. Sorry.
Well,
Tell us a bit more about this.
It was a family wedding, and
Was that the only suit you had at that age? I suppose?
yeah,
It
at
would have
that
been-
time, you just didn't have a suit, did you? So, yeah, it was the only one. And my mum insisted upon it, obviously. You know, it was, if you're going to go down to meet Mr. Owens, you've got to look smart, you know. So that was it.
Well,
Yeah.
I suppose on that note, if you were a twin as well, I suppose, you know, you'd only have one set of clothes each, wouldn't you? So.
Yeah, that is very true.
I mean, I don't think I was there at the time, was I? So what colour tie was it?
I would say, at a guess, it was somewhere around 1976. I do remember when it got to...
He's avoiding the question.
He's avoiding the question about the colour of the tie. And what colour shoes did he have? Were they brown or black?
I can't remember. but when it got to 1977, anyway, I do remember everyone was running around getting ready for the Queen's Silver Jubilee. And I was definitely blowing a trombone then, you know. And we'd started this junior group off, and then my fellow podcasters, Stephen Edwards and Richard Hewitt, soon joined the beginners group, and it very quickly developed into a full junior band. And I must say, we couldn't have had a better brass trainer than Tom.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
He even taught me to spit on my trombone slide.
That was his speciality. That and a tea. I always remember him telling us when we first started, you've got to imagine you've got a tea leaf on the end of your tongue. And that's how you produce your notes.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, he said exactly the same to me. You know, you've got something on the tip of your tongue and you're spitting it off and then blowing air, basically, at the same time. So, yeah, that was how he got you to start blowing, definitely, you know.
Great man.
And then we all obviously progressed in the junior band, and it was a cracking band. Some fantastic players for our age. It was unbelievable, really. And then in about 1981, I left school, and I applied to join the RAF military bands. But at the same time, I also applied for an apprenticeship with British Aerospace in Broughton, which is obviously now Airbus. And I did get offered an RAF band position because the musical director said, you can play trombone in bass and treble clef, so we'll count that as two instruments. So I was quite lucky there to be accepted, you know. But in the end, I decided to do the apprenticeship, stay in the area, and by the middle of 1984, I'd completed my apprenticeship and joined the Northrop Silver Brass Band. And I also played with the Bill Basie Big Band as well for a couple of years, which was a very good experience. And then, like I say, I'd finished my apprenticeship, but I think it was still in the blood, and I was still looking to go into the military somewhere as a musician, but the RAF weren't looking for trombone players. So I tried the army, and I was soon at Catterick in North Yorkshire doing 9 weeks of basic training. And from there, I was posted to my military band. They were stationed in Hildesheim in Germany. It was really good. I got to play many concerts and marching tattoos, the Edinburgh Military Tattoo. We went out to Canada to play in the Calgary Stampede. I spent a year studying music at the Military School of Music, Nalla Hall. I will just bring up something there from my army days. I've just got a little story to say about something that happened there, you know. Our military band had been asked to play in a military tattoo. We were one out of many different bands performing. I think there were about 10 military bands and 4 pipes and drums bands. We rehearsed one afternoon and then used the bar back at the army base we were all sleeping at that night. We then would travel to the tattoo the following day. Well, the accommodation block we were sleeping in that night consisted of one extremely long corridor with loads of rooms coming off it, basically 8 beds in every room. I got up in the morning and went to find the bathroom to shave, brush teeth, etc. It was then that one of my band players entered the bathroom and said, I said, "Good morning, did you sleep well?" How I didn't end up in hospital was a miracle. Apparently, I had snored like a lion all night. At some point, they had lifted my bed out of the room and put me in the corridor and shut the door of the room. After death threats from band's people in rooms further down the corridor, they had reluctantly lifted my bed and me back into the room. I knew nothing about it and had slept like a log.
So, I mean, you've got plenty of stories about you and alcohol, though, haven't you, Doug?
Well, over the years, you know.
So I think the moral of the story is there. Don't play in a band and drink alcohol, which is never going to happen, is it, to be honest? You didn't say what band you were in. It was the Tank Regiment.
It was the first Royal Tank Regiment. Right. It was, yeah. Well, moving on from that, when I left the military band, I rejoined Northrop Silver Brass Band. This period with Northrop was amazing, really. So successful with the band. I remember playing the bass trombone part in the test piece Journey into Freedom for the Welsh Area Contest in the Brangwyn Hall, Swansea. And the adjudicators' remarks of our playing included gorgeous bass trombone sound. We came first that day. I do remember another contest with Northrop, and we were playing Force of Destiny. Before we went on stage, the second trom player shoved his mute into his bell, and I thought, good idea, saves carrying it on. Well, we both still had them in when the conductor started, but even though the first long notes were muffled from 2 of the troms, we still managed first place. There were many first place results with Northrop, and it would culminate in the brand new band room being built, which is still in use by a very successful and talented group of players today. I would then have a break from brass bands, but you know what happens. The phone rings, and Real Silver Brass Band need a solo trom. It's only one contest. It's always the same.
Get us all on that one, don't we?
Well, as soon as I walked into the real band room and sat in the first trombone seat, I thought, some gaps player-wise and a lot of young players. What a shock I had when we played the first piece. All of the young players were good. The young principal cornet player was the best I have ever heard for his age, and the band quickly moved up the sections. This resulted in the band later qualifying to play in the Albert Hall as one of the Welsh area qualifying bands in the millennium year. I actually played with this great band for 11 years. I don't think they give you that long a sentence for murder. After another one of those phone calls, you know it's definitely only one concert. I found myself in the Royal Buckley Band Room in the first trombone chair. During this period of playing with Royal Buckley, the band were conducted by a member of the famous Black Dyke Band. He managed to get permission for Royal Buckley to rehearse in the Black Dyke Band Room in preparation for the contest. That was a great experience.
Who was the famous Black Dyke person?
Percussionist Paul Lovett Cooper.
Oh, right, okay.
I would then have another break from brass banding, mainly due to Mum being very ill. Then I got asked to play for a newly created Northrop B band. It consisted of junior band players at Northrop that were ready to play more challenging music, and some older players, which included me. The band entered the fourth section and unbelievably became national champions by winning the finals contest in Cheltenham that year. A brilliant result and great experience for all of the young players involved. Where am I playing now? Yes, you have guessed it, another phone call. Royal Buckley solo trombone needed, and there we are. I have two great players sitting alongside me, and after a recent contest in North Wales, open section, the band came second, and the adjudicator's remarks of the band's performance included, "Bravo, Troms, not once, but twice."
Oh, God, we never lived that down.
Always the same story, isn't it? Eh? Trombones.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Trombones, eh?
Trombones to the fore.
I'd just like to end my spot, if you like, by saying now you may have noticed that the only people I have named during my verbal podcast are my fellow brass monkeys, Stephen Edwards and Richard Hewitt. And I had to name Mr. Owens, or Tom, as we later called him, as he taught all three of us to play, and without his efforts, we wouldn't have had all of the fantastic experiences we have had playing our brass instruments, and would just add that if anyone would like to tell their brass playing story, please email thebrassmonkeyspodcast@gmail.com.
Well done, Doug.
Nice one, Doug.
Well said. Well, unfortunately, mine isn't as colourful as yours. Your two banding exploits, but like you know, we started at Flint Band, and it started with a conversation with my dad. Really, he said he played in a band, which I never knew, and I'm not sure about this, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who can clarify it. But he said he played for the Connors Key Band, which I believe was like there were two bands around that area. There was like John Summers Band and the Connors Key Band or Shotton Band, and then they ended up being formed into one. But I don't know when. I know there's now D-Side Silver, and that's they're still going today. I'm struggling like the rest of us for players, but they're still there. So I'm sure there's somebody out there who can confirm all that.
And I remember your dad did sing as well, Richard, didn't he? He was a very good singer, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did a concert, didn't he, with us as well, at Flint Pavilion. Do you remember that one?
And he did one in Prestatyn as well.
He did, yeah.
that one.
So, yeah, my dad was a famous singer around the area. But, yeah, my banding started exactly the same as Doug's and Steve's at Flint Band, and with the great Tommy Owens, who we've said today, fantastic man. We wouldn't be here today without him. But I remember he gave me a cornet, because again, as Doug said, he's looking at your lips and going, "You're a cornet player, you're a bass player, you're a whatever." And I fell into the cornet category, and he handed me this cornet, which is held together with blobs of solder here, there, and everywhere. It was so funny because I was so afraid to handle it. I thought it'd just come apart, and it eventually did. But the interesting thing, the case was an old gas mask case, a black gas mask case, and it used to wobble inside it, carrying it. But that was my first cornet. And like my fellow podcasters, we all grouped together, banding, and I think that era of growing up as well, we were always in each other's homes. I remember going to your house, Doug, and practicing. I think we came to your house, we Steve, and we practiced. And
that's how it was in those days, yeah. We all did it, didn't we? And at least we practiced.
yeah, we did. And we were really committed to it, really. I think we should have been committed, but I think that's the point. And between us, we grew up together playing music, great music together, and we all had an understanding of each other. And I think, the band, as it has been said, the junior band was fantastic. And we were everywhere we went, people were noticing and making comments about this young group of musicians who played good music together. And my one lasting memory, I suppose, is the first time I played in a contest. And as Steve mentioned, it was the old Kelston College It was the old theatre there, which isn't there anymore. It's now been replaced by a library in the college. But we went down there and we played the New World Symphony.
Yeah, and I believe, I'm sure it was yourself and my twin brother that were playing with the band then. I wasn't playing because Tommy Owens was obviously playing bass trombone on the day, but I was certainly there listening, trying to, gain some insight as to what it was all about. And the band played brilliantly,
Yeah, we did. And playing third cornet, the old Chucks, on the back row there. And, obviously, New World Symphony, famous for the hole this had. And everyone knows it for that, but that was my first lasting memory, really, of... I don't think it's ever been the same since, has it? It was really good there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They tried it in different venues, and that was a really good venue. And then we went on, I suppose, in the senior band, and then I had a spell at Northup as well, and that was a great time. And it just got too much with work. I had a decision to make. I was just working long hours and stuff, and I couldn't do the both. I didn't feel I was giving enough commitment. Then I had my little break, as we all do, in banding. And then I was nagged.
Don't tell me it was a phone call.
It was a phone call. Well, it is a phone call and meeting up with Dennis Cartwright. Remember
Dennis, yeah.
And he was nagging me, saying, come on. And I said, oh, no, I'm not so sure. And I resisted. And then I ended up at Holywell, because I think Holywell disbanded and then they formed again. And again, good old Mark Davis and his dad and Cliff. Cliff was trying to get some players to reform the Holywell band. And that's what we did. And then I played with them for a while, and again, work got in the way, just couldn't commit, and I stopped again. And then Dan got hold of me again, and he persuaded me to go to Rill. And at the time, I was living in Parkgate, so I had a commute from Parkgate to Rill. I think it was twice a week. And they had a good band then. And then I stayed with them for a while. And then again, it was just, with me, it was always the work commitments. With working with my job, I just never at home. So I ended up taking a break, a long break. And then I ended up, I suppose, every now and again I'd help people out, but nothing permanent. And then when I met my lovely wife, Jen, she came to Holywell. I think I was back at Holywell at that time. And then we both went from Holywell to the Cheshire Police Band. We played for them for a couple of years. Jen was on principal. I was third man down. I wasn't there at first because I didn't want to join a band again. And they persuaded me in the end. I used to go to all the rehearsals, and I went to record a CD with them. And I was just listening. And I ended up playing the tambourine on The Hustle. And it was such a joke with the band because they knew I didn't want to join the band. And they actually put me on the CD as a name, played the tambourine as well, which was their little joke. So I ended up then joining them, and they were a fantastic concert band, not so much of a contest band. So they did one contest a year, the area in Blackpool. And honestly, I've never known a band be so nervous going on stage for a contest. There'd be me and Jen sitting in the back, ready to go on stage, calm as a cucumber. And the rest of them all running around like headless chickens. You're right. I said, well, it's only a contest. So anyway, that was that. And then I think after that, I can't remember if I had a little bit with Holywell again. I went back to Holywell. And then I ended up at Buckley, which, no, it wasn't Buckley. It was Ifton first. I've been everywhere. We had a good spell at Ifton, a really good spell at Ifton. I mean, some fantastic players there. And in 1 year, we did 13 contests, and we won, I think, about 11 of them. We came second in the others. And at the time, there were 170th in the world rankings or something.
Yeah, really good going.
I think it was the amount of contests that we were doing and stuff. And then, of course, band politics get in the way again, and we left them, and then we ended up at Buckley, and that's where we are now. So, and I'm back to my roots, playing on the back row with the Chucks. which, you know, as bandsmen do, you go, you know, where people ask you to go, and it, you know, it's working out well. And yeah, so that's my brief but colourful banding career. There's bits you forget, and it's only when you're talking about it that you remember. So there we go. That's the three of us, and that's some of our little exploits of the band. You might hear more as we go along. So there you go, guys. I think the plan is, what we want to do going forward is we're hoping to interview bandmen, ex-bandmen, conductors.
And I think we've got one in the pipeline. Hopefully, our first victim, if you like, will be the ex-principal cornet player of the Flint Town Silver Prize Band, Mr. Barry Evans.
Yeah, so hopefully he's going to be the first one we talk to. I'm sure he's got loads of stories with his banding career. Yeah. And then hopefully we can take it forward. But like Doug said, if you want to get in touch with us, where is it, Doug? Come on, I hope now he can't remember.
He slept since then. Oh, no, here. He'll be there in a minute. Now it's
the Brass Monkeys podcast.
Come on,
gmail.com.
All you need to do is email the Brass Monkeys podcast at gmail.com.
There you go. And we're hoping to introduce some little Steve snippets. What are they going to consist of, Steve?
I think it's just a bit of band gossip and general what's going on around and about with the bands, and you know, it'll be things like what we've got now coming up is we've got the area contest coming up, but I suppose for the lower section bands, a lot of it'll be around the fact of the rule change recently around the third and fourth sections, where you can actually start to borrow players.
Can you really? I didn't know about that.
Yes, so that's maybe one for next time to dig in a bit deeper. The third and fourth section, I think the third section can borrow one, and the fourth section can borrow two players.
What, from the higher section?
From, I think it's third and fourth. Oh, I'll have to clarify that, because it's still new news, but I'm not sure if it's a good thing or if it's just papering over the cracks, really.
Yeah, well, they need to do something, don't they? I think, to mix,
you know, they're trying.
Yeah.
Trying something.
So that's what your
snippets
are going to be.
That's what I'm after, and if any of the bands or people around about have got any gossip, give us a shout.
Drop us a line.
Drop us a line.
And Doug's going to be a diary spot, isn't it? Doug's diary.
Doug's diary. So if anyone wants to contact us on that email, you can let us know if your band is going to be doing a concert and when, and any contests that you're planning on entering. That'll be great, and we can put that out to everybody.
We've got the area coming up, haven't we, in mid-March, which a lot of the bands will be going to, which is for Wales, the 15th and 16th of March, where on the Saturday we've got the second, fourth and first section, and on the Sunday we've got the third and championship section.
Yeah, so I mean that's I think bands up and down, hopefully it'll be a better show this year. There's a bit of a trek down to Swansea, but that's another story for another day, maybe.
And for us, obviously, playing in the second section, we're on early in the morning first.
Yes, so Douglas, no drinking Friday night. And make sure your bed's in your room and not in the corridor.
I'm just looking at a Heineken Zero that's on the table here. You know, maybe that's the way forward for me.
Quite possibly. So there you go, guys. That's our first episode, our first proper episode. So hopefully join us. You can join us anywhere on your favourite podcast providers. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, apparently, I think. Or you can actually find us on, if you actually type in www.podbean.com. There's a player on there and you can find us. Just type in the Brass Monkeys podcast and you should be able to find us. So thank you very much, and tune in next time. It's a bye from me.
Goodbye from Doug.
And it's a bye from Steve.